5 minutes break, just enough for me to just get to my senses again. Okay. Uh, Thank you, Anshita, for taking trouble. Maybe your Zoom was reinstalled, or why did it take?
Actually, it was some Zoom error.
Okay, so
I,
you're from Rajasthan now, from India, yes?
yes.
Maybe in India there's some connect problems with Zoom because it is a big continent. So who knows? And Rilon, are you also from India or not?
No, I'm from Indonesia.
From Indonesia, yes, I remember, yes, because you know the city of Darwin,
Yes.
opposite you in the North Australia. Yes, I remember now. Well, and you are from a small island on
Yes.
Indonesia, maybe a resort where you can swim, or maybe you
Yes.
have sharks.
Yes, we do.
Scary, yes,
Yeah, we
sharks.
do. Yes.
It's scary for tourists. Yes. Okay, so let's continue with Wittgenstein. So he was a very interesting personality. Now a few words about his life. He was born in, I already told you that he was Jewish. He was born in a Jewish family. But there were Jews, emancipated, so-called, who received Christianity. And his mother was Roman Catholic. So he received Roman Catholic baptism in Ahmed. Please, yes, everybody shut down your microphones because otherwise it's difficult to speak and to concentrate. Ludwig Wittgenstein was born in Vienna and was baptized in a Catholic church, but he didn't receive good religious education, and it seems that he was agnostic. Like many, I told you, many positivists are not atheists, but they are agnostics. They say that these problems are, or these questions cannot be solved by means of logic and facts. They are to remain sort of, these questions, whether God exists or not, remain unanswered. So, well, well, I will explain it later more fully. But so Wittgenstein was, his parents were very wealthy and they could afford to give their son a good education. So he was born in Vienna, the capital of Austria, but or they in German it's called Wien. Well, it's the same city, okay? Only a German and English name of this city, the capital of Austria. It's in the center of Europe. And then he was sent when he was a student or reached the year, well, was an adolescent after finishing school. He was sent to Berlin Technical School, very prominent institution at that time, somehow resembling you, the technical school of named after Bauman in Moscow. If you know this technical school in Moscow, named after Bauman, okay, so it is a very also very prestigious institution. Well, maybe Moscow Physical Technical Institute also somehow is of the same magnitude, I would say. He finished this Berlin Technical School because he was very talented, and then moved to Manchester to work in the laboratory which prepared mm, uh, designs for aircrafts. So he was aircraft engineer. Yes, we can say so. Aircraft engineer. You understand? Yes. Oh, sorry. Engineer. So aircraft engineer. So, and he didn't like this profession, and he got Maria. I glad to hear you. You don't have camera today, yes? So
Yes, yes,
well,
that's
I hear your voice. I hear your voice, and this is enough for me. It is very soothing. Okay, so I will continue. aircraft engineer, Wittgenstein, and he didn't like this profession and he wanted to study philosophy of mathematics. So at first he spoke with the German mathematician Gottlob Frege. Well, those who are interested in mathematics know this name, Gottlob Frege. He is one of the best specialists in mathematical logic and in Germany at the end of the 19th and the beginning of the 20th century. Well, this talk or this meeting took place in summer 1911. But Gottlob Frege didn't like Wittgenstein and was not impressed by this strange student, and he said, well, if you are working in Manchester anyway, so it's not far from Cambridge, and in Cambridge there is a very interesting also my colleague, the Englishman Bertrand Russell, who is also a specialist in mathematical logic or also uh, in philosophy of mathematics. And it was really so, because Bertrand Russell, together with his co-author, uh, Arthur North, Alfred North Whitehead, they published the book, which was called in Latin Principia Mathematicae. Also interesting that they continued calling their books in Latin Mathematica. Not snobbish, but just this was the English, or maybe snobbish because this Cambridge, they are a little bit snobbish or snobbish, I don't know. Principia Mathematica. The first volume of this, there were 3 volumes. The first volume appeared in 1910. So in 1911, of course, Bertrand Russell was already a celebrity and is considered a specialist in, say, philosophy of mathematics. So, well, Wittgenstein came to Cambridge in October 1911. October. So, October usually is the start of academic year. With you also. We started in October, yes? October 1911. So in October 1911, Wittgenstein went to Cambridge and met Bertrand Russell and asked him whether he can be allowed to attend his lectures on Ahmed. Also, please shut down your microphone if it is possible. Um, yes. October, it is important date. So in October 1911, uh, 2 celebrities met, Ludwig Wittgenstein and Bertrand Russell. Both are very important figures in philosophy of science, and please don't forget these names till the exam, okay? Otherwise there can be problems. So they met in October 1911, and well, they worked together. Sort of Wittgenstein studied for 3 years, but then in 1914 the war started, the First World War. Between whom and whom? So Turkey, Germany and Austria-Hungary and Bulgaria were on one side. Russia, England, France, Portugal, Italy were on the other side. Serbia also. So there was a very bloody war. Some countries remained neutral, like Holland, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland. So some were neutral, but most of Greece also, but most were involved somehow in this or that way. So because Wittgenstein was a born in Vienna, the capital of Austro-Hungarian Empire at that time. He was conscripted and had to fight at the front. At first, he fought at Russian front because Russia attacked Austro-Hungary, and so there were like uh, well uh, actions, war actions on this border. But later he was transferred to Italian front. Remember, Italy was on the side of Entente, or um, England and France. So uh, you know that Entente was victorious. So after the war, Wittgenstein was taken prisoner and had to and was detained in one of the Italian camps for prisoners of war. But there he was given an opportunity to write and to read and write. So he had access to books and also to copy books, and he could write, and he wrote this treatise, which I mentioned in the first part of my lecture, Tractatus Logica Philosophicus. And it was published with an introduction of Bertrand Russell in a periodical edited by Wilhelm Ostwald. It was published in 1921. After the publication of this logical philosophical treatise, Wittgenstein became a world celebrity. But he was very queer personality. He wanted, because he thought that he invented new method, he wanted to implement it personally. So he went to a village school to teach their mathematics to local school children. You know, the peasants who didn't want their children to become geniuses in mathematics, and maybe not all these village students, or I would say village children, had some passion or even some talent for mathematics. So there immediately became the atmosphere became tense, and there was a conflict in the air, because the parents of these school children didn't want their children to become mathematicians or logicians, and Wittgenstein put his entire soul in this educational process, and somehow the most talented children became his um, they loved him as a teacher, but other children hated him because they got sort of an inferiority complex because they couldn't match with those, you understand. So maybe he was a poor teacher, I don't know, but there was a conflict, and he hit one girl in the ear, and she lost her hearing on one ear. Uh, well, I would say, just I will find the correct word. Just a moment. Well, eardrum, eardrum. You know eardrum, what does it mean? Eardrum. It's like a drum in your ear. Just a moment. Just a moment. Eardrum. So if it is broken, so you cannot hear on this ear, okay? If I hit you with a fist very heavily, okay? So this can be broken, okay? and so you will lose your hearing. Also, after an explosion, if some explosion will take place near you, this eardrum can be sort of torn. You understand? Ahmed, do you understand it? Eardrum. Okay. So he hit her in the ear and her eardrum was injured, okay, or torn. So this girl had lost her uh, hearing on one ear. So their parents were uh, decided to suit, you understand, to suit Wittgenstein, and even wanted him to be put to prison. But so there was some court decision which pronounced Wittgenstein mentally unbalanced. He was obliged to undergo medical treatment in psychiatric hospital and to pay a large sum of money to this girl and her parents. But of course, his teaching career was ended on that. So he had no other choice as to move to Cambridge, where he started, and to teach their philosophy. So school children were not capable to understand Wittgenstein. So he moved to Cambridge and he was given a chair, not a chair, but just a possibility to give lectures. There was no concrete subject that he taught. This was just a special course. Well, he spoke what he wanted. Maybe you could call this course logical positivism, but it was not called this way. But because he was a world celebrity, because everybody knew his logical philosophical treatise, so he was allowed to speak what he wanted. You understand? So starting from, I think, 1931 to his death, 1951, he was teaching in Cambridge. So he didn't write another book. He wrote only some papers for his lectures or conspects for his lectures, which were found after his death and edited by his friends and published 4 years later in 3 years later in 1954, and they were called Philosophical Investigations. Well, now you can buy this book if you want or find it in the internet. Philosophical Investigations. So what is the contents of this book? It is rather, I would say, strange how it looked. Like more resembling a diary or a collection of different thoughts, sort of not connected with each other, okay? So he started one thought, then moved to another thought, and you see it's difficult to read. If you are like to read some like logically strict thing, so for example, then you can read logical philosophical treatise, it will do you good. But if you start to read philosophical investigations, that will do you harm, because you will not understand what he is hinting at and what is the talk about. But later, the commentators and other philosophers explained Wittgenstein to us. So, and they explained that Wittgenstein was speaking about so-called language games. So we have to understand what does it mean, language games. What is that? Well, you are serious people and you are do not like the word game. Game seems too childish. Yes, you are serious people. You don't want to play games, okay? And I don't want to play games with you. But nevertheless, being serious, I have to introduce this term, language games, and you can find it in the internet. If you don't believe me, that you will find this term there. What is that? So after this, all this shock with this girl and with his diagnosis of mentally unbalanced person and maybe remorses of conscience, he rethought his logical philosophical treatise. And he said that he was wrong in saying that such utterings or propositions as, say, Ahmed is a good man are senseless. No, they can be full of sense if we determine what do we mean by good in a so-called language game. Like, for example, we're playing chess, and then we'll call this figure a horse, and this figure we'll call an elephant, okay? How do you play chess, Ahmed? You are saying elephant, yes?
Yes.
Yeah, elephant, yes? And
Yes.
pawn, you know pawn, what is pawn? It's a small figure, pawn. Пешка in Russian, yes? Maria
Мяч.
yes?
Мяч.
Yes?
Ball, мяч.
What is pawn? Not pawn. And what is queen in chess? Well, uh, I will just look. Maybe I'm mispronouncing it. I will see chess.
No, it is right.
Ah,
Pawn.
pawn. Okay. It's
Yes.
okay. Then okay. Then I will proceed. So, so this is how we define. This is a game, you know. And in this game, for example, the horse can sort of jump over other figures, okay, over pawns or over other figures. So, but this is not because this is the rules. So now let us define how we'll speak here in this our Zoom conference. We also can knight. Yes, okay.
Yes.
So knight can jump over other figures, like over pawns, okay? His own pawns or the pawns of his enemy, the black pawns or the, and also just, you understand. And he is like moving in a, we have in Russian, the letter called G, but it doesn't make any sense in English. But if you have essentials of Russian alphabet, you will understand how the knight is moving, okay? Like a letter G in Russian, okay? So I will write this letter here for you in Russian. You see, this is our Russian letter G. And it also describes more or less how the knight is moving in chess. So the same can be said about, for example, a situation of war. When you are in the trenches, you don't think about mathematical logic, but you obey like to your officer. And if your officer gives you an order, then you must obey orders because you have pronounced the oath before entering military. You understand? If you are conscripted, you pronounce a military oath. Also, if you move to the United States, Angel Sierra, and you want American citizenship, you will have to pronounce the oath of allegiance. Yes? Oath of allegiance. Well, according to logical philosophical treatise, it doesn't make any sense. What is this oath of allegiance? Well, you, for example, you pronounce that you are going to share your blood for United States. Well, it doesn't make any sense. What is sharing blood? Shedding blood, I'm sorry, shedding blood, okay? Shedding blood. But there's some clause there also in this oath of allegiance. I'm not writing it correctly, I think. Well, but you understand what I mean, Angel, yes? And maybe Maria Zaychenoko also, and maybe others. So this is rules of the game, you usually say when you enter some enterprise, they say, well, we have our rules. This is the rules of our company, or there's the rules of the internet connection, or there's the rules in the Zoom or somewhere. The rules which are more or less the same as the rules in chess playing. So it is a part of the consensus, okay? Consensus, you understand? Consensus. I think in Spanish there is this word consensus. It's Latin, but well, it's in English also consensus. Maria Zaychinoka, do you know consensus? We now have in
Yes.
Russian also consensus, да?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So this is consensus is like a game. So we agreed that we will use certain words or certain tactics or certain, say, expressions, I don't know, or even behave in a certain way. And if you don't want to behave or to obey the rules or to, if you don't share this consensus, then perhaps you are free to leave our company, okay? So we are not insisting on having you among our peers. You understand? Peers. Yes? Peers. Like, well, colleagues, okay? So this is all agreement between people. And language is a kind of an agreement. So when we say that we will use this word good, we will define in which situations it is possible to say that a person is good or gentle or, say, intelligent. Well, for example, in Russia, we have this expression intelligent person, or we say in Russian intelligent. Well, it's also intelligent. But in Russia, it is defined in not in this same way as in English. When you say in English, this is an intelligent person, you mean that he's smart. Yes, Maria?
Yes.
And when we say intelligentный человек in Russian, we mean gentleman. Yes? Maria Молчанова, do you agree?
Yes, sir.
Intelligentный человек, it's a gentleman. Well, intelligent, but if we say intelligent person, it doesn't follow from that that he's a gentleman. Well, he can be a, well, say, predator, I don't know. Or I don't know, well, he can be sadistic. Who knows? Intelligent persons can be, well, anyway, behave in a unpredictable way, because intelligence doesn't correspond to moral qualities. More or less, but not necessarily. So, but when we say intelligentный in Russian, we mean that he's like gentle and moral and well, I would say well educated. Okay, so this is another connotation. So this all depends on language. So logic is one thing, but language game is another thing. So it seems that Wittgenstein underwent a certain conversion, like Kant. You remember there was pre-critical Kant and post-critical Kant. The same we can speak about logic, Wittgenstein, early Wittgenstein, or Wittgenstein of the treatise on logic philosophical, and later Wittgenstein of philosophical investigations, or Wittgenstein of the language games. So there are two Wittgensteins. And of course, this first Wittgenstein, the early Wittgenstein, is popular with philosophers, with mathematicians, with logicians, with physicists. But the later Wittgenstein is like fashionable, for example, in the art historians or say art theoreticians, because he speaks about art. He started to speak about art. The younger, or say the earlier Wittgenstein would say that all our pronouncements about art are senseless because we say this is a good picture. The author shows taste or shows genius, sparks of genius, or the colors look bright or well. Well, this is, well, of course, you can say that there is a blue color in this picture, okay? This is obvious, but we cannot say that this is a sort of demonstrates the genius of its author, okay? Well, we can say that this piece of art costs, say, $10 million on Sotheby, or pound sterlings on Sotheby auction, okay? And I don't know how to say auction. Well, selling, okay? Selling.
Auction.
Auction, yes. Selling, yes. When you sell pictures, Sotheby's is a very important, so I think Sotheby, like that. This is a very prominent, very fashionable auction, okay, for art. So we can say that this piece of art costs 10 million. This is sensible and makes sort of, well, makes sense even for younger Wittgenstein. But to say that I don't like, say, Van Eyck or, say, Giotto or Leonardo, this doesn't make any sense. You like him or you don't like him, or this is your choice. This is your, we cannot dispute about tastes, okay? You know this expression, tastes differ, okay? So this is when we say that how can we be logical in art? But now with later Wittgenstein, we can be logical in art because we enter a certain game, uh, a certain language game, because artists are also part of, say, world community or human community, and they speak about art and they understand each other. Perhaps we physicists or philosophers, we don't understand them because they have peculiar view of the world. If you, Anshita, if you know one artist, or in India, you don't have artists.
We have a lot of artists.
A lot of artists, yes. So you understand that they are peculiar people.
Mhm.
It's sometimes difficult to understand what they mean. They cannot usually express what they feel in words. They prefer to use colors, brushes, okay, to express their soul. The same with musicians. So now with this later Wittgenstein, there's opened a possibility of expressing yourself not only in logical terms, but also in paints, in colors, in sounds, in gestures. You understand? So even gestures, that was also the topic of Wittgenstein's book. You can find a lot there about gestures. So gestures can be very eloquent. They even speak now, psychologists after Wittgenstein, they speak about language of the body, okay? For example, your mother-in-law can say everything can be written on your face, okay? Everything is expressed by your face. You try to be polite, but she would read from your face that you don't like your mother-in-law, okay? It's interesting, yes? So this, because this language of the body, you cannot hide your feelings, okay? Also a smile, of course, can be very full of meaningful. Yes, but here is negative. So in the Tractatus, he said that you should limit your like your propositions. You should sort of sift them. You understand? Sift. Sift. Like you understand what is sifting. You should sift your propositions and select the meaningful one, and sort of select meaningful one, and sort of get away with senseless one, and better be silent about things that you cannot speak of with logically. Okay, this first Wittgenstein was a positivist, but later Wittgenstein was something new. Maybe he was postmodernist. So you know this postmodernist philosophy, which says that man should not be logocentralized or logocentric. You know, this is logocentric. What is that? Logocentric. So he should be always logical. But postmodernists like Jacques Derrida, he says, well, I will fight this logocentrism, okay? And Wittgenstein seems to be on the side of these postmodernists. Later Wittgenstein, not younger Wittgenstein. So here's a very interesting uh, transformation that Wittgenstein underwent. And the symbol of it also peculiar, that he was buried in a Catholic cemetery. Well, he was agnostic all his life, but before his death, he had acquaintances who were firm believers, Roman Catholics, English and Irish, and they insisted on calling to him a Roman Catholic priest. So, and they asked Wittgenstein, do you want to speak with the priest? And he said, why not? Because he was already full of this idea of logic games or language games. So he entered this last language game with death, okay? And in this language game, there's a place for a priest and for a cemetery and for rites and for burial and for confession and for last communion, okay? So, well, he was not given a last communion, and he didn't go to the confession. He just spoke with the priest, and then he died. And after his death, his friends asked the priest, can he be buried as a Catholic? Or you will say that he was an atheist. And the priest said, well, from my two talks with him, I could say that he was a believer in a certain sense. And we can afford to bury him on Catholic cemetery because he was baptized Catholic. So that's how it ended, you see. So he ended not as Bertrand Russell, who was always a staunch agnostic and critic of religion, but as a person who can enter new logic games for him. Who knows what came out of that, but you see, Lenin would be furious of that, but Bertrand Russell also was. Now, this gesture is very eloquent, okay? I'm saying goodbye to you and hope to meet you next Saturday, okay? So, okay, we'll return to Wittgenstein later, maybe not a few times. Now, thank you, Anshita, for hosting us, and thank everything for listening to me. So have a happy weekend, or what is left of it. Okay, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you.
Thank you, Prof.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Oh.